Yo, what's good? What's good? We back with another episode of the CheckDown. This is the Big 10 conference breakdown. Uh, how y'all doing, man? I'm here with the crew. Hope everybody that's tuned in, man, enjoys this episode. Pop, what's good with you?
Hey, I'm good. Glad to be back with the people.
J Mitt, what's up?
Not much, man. It's another Saturday. I mean, and we get to talk about the Big 10 today, so I mean, it should be interesting.
Sir, what's good with you, bro?
I ain't shit, bro. You know what it is. I'm just here.
And our college expert, man, you know what I'm saying, live from Germany, man. Andre, what's happening, bro?
It was good, man. Well, we get to talk more college football. Anytime you get to talk college football, it's a good day. Season is approaching soon. We got about a month left for the season start. So everything's starting to
Man, it's
pick up,
coming
man.
fast.
It's great.
That's crazy. We got a month, bro. A month. That's crazy. That's crazy. It was like the national championship was 2 months away.
Mhm.
2 months ago.
Oh, thank God it's not.
Oh well.
I wish we could get some football tomorrow, man. Even 4 weeks is too long.
Man, this gonna be a this. Woof, this gonna be a hot one right here, man.
It's
I
gonna be
think
a lot
this.
of turmoil and change. I
Uh,
don't think
I,
I don't know if the NCAA ready for it.
I think this season gonna be worse than 2021 when we first got spaces.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Like
It,
it's
it, it,
it's
it's
it's it's been a lot of smoke set out. It's a lot of talking, dog. Like it's a lot of smoke on the streets right now, man. It's gonna be nasty, man.
for sure, and this realignment really gonna shake shit up. I think people taking the previous team, like let me just use Utah for an example. They
Hmm.
trying to use what they did in the Pac-12, like they can't shake shit up in the Big 12. I'm like, bro, y'all sleeping on this team, bro. Y'all really are.
I mean, yeah, it's the realignment is definitely going to be interesting this year, especially just because some of the matchups that you're going to get and the potential to see certain matchups more than once throughout the year. So it's definitely going to be fun this year, man. I think we're going to have probably the highest level of football that you can have at the college level this year. I think in previous years, you didn't really see a lot of the top teams go up against each other. This year, you got a Texas versus a Michigan. You got an Ohio State versus Oregon. You got Bama versus Georgia in the regular season. Like you have these big games that in the past you didn't really see unless it was in the playoffs. So it's gonna be dope.
All right, man. So this one a long one because we got a few teams. I think the best team to start off with, man, is USC. New to the Big 10, coming in with also a new quarterback in Moss Miller. I was looking at their schedule. You know what I'm saying? They got a pretty tough run, man. They got open it up with LSU. Uh, then Utah State. That's gonna be a little pushover. Then they got Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, Notre Dame. I think this might be a team that's got a tough road ahead of them, man. I don't know too much about Moss Miller. I did try to do some research, but it looks like this is going to be his biggest minutes of his career right now. Coming into this season. Uh, so what y'all think about USC?
I mean, Miller Moss and this
Yeah, Miller
year
Moss.
he should be the starter going into the year. In the bowl game, he had almost 400 yards passing and 6 touchdowns. And at the Elite 11, some of the people that were there saw him throw there. I can't tell you why he was throwing there because usually only for the high school kids, but there were a couple college guys throwing there, and the people said he looked good. Now that's against air, so it's not like he was throwing up against anybody. But I think if for some reason it didn't work out with Miller Moss, behind Miller Moss you have Jordan Mayava, who last year was at UNLV, and he was a guy that teams definitely wanted in the transfer portal. Like one of the teams that wanted him was Georgia early on. There was actually a lot of smoke, and at one point, it looked like he was going to end up going to Georgia. I don't know what happened there, but he ends up at USC. Last year, he had hold on, I have it right here. He had almost 3,100 passing yards. He had 3,085 passing yards and 20 total touchdowns, and that was his first year starting. So I would assume Miller Moss's the starter because he's been in the system. And I mean, going off of the bowl game, unless he just looks terrible through fall camp, and I don't know how he looked in the spring, there's no way you can't start him going into the year. But if for some reason he falters, I could definitely see Mayava taking over because, I mean, that kid was nice at UNLV last year. So quarterback position, I think they're pretty set.
What you think about that? What you think about that schedule they got though? I mean, with you saying it's a possibility of switching between two quarterbacks, could that be, a route to them not having a successful season this year?
Yeah, I mean USC is a question mark this year, right? Because you did lose Caleb Williams. You're replacing your defensive coordinator, which you could argue defense can't get any worse. So that's not really a negative, but we just don't know what USC is going to be this year. I think people are sleeping on them, sort of, though. Like, I feel like they're kind of one of the forgotten teams of the Big Ten. Like, people bring up Penn State, they'll bring up Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and I don't really hear a lot of talk about USC, which I don't necessarily understand because they're still loaded over there as far as weapons go on offense. And on defense, they have talent. It's just Alex Grinch is probably the worst defensive coordinator in college football. And they finally got rid of him and replaced him with Deanton Lynn. Is it Deanton?
Yeah, it's Deanton Lynn. He was UCLA.
He was at UCLA last year.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And he turned that defense around last year. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but he turned that defense completely around.
They were okay, so before he got there, UCLA was ranked like 87th in overall defense, and he got them to top 11, top 10 defensive unit.
I was gonna say, like, isn't that Anthony Lynn's son, right?
I think so.
He came from the league. Like, he was coaching in the league, and then he went to UCLA, and then from UCLA now he's at USC. And that's the thing. Like, Lincoln Riley did say really early in the process, he wants to shift his focus more to the defensive side, which I actually think is a good idea as far as focusing more on that, because when it comes to Lincoln Riley, I'm not going to be worried about his offenses. He's going to have productive offenses on the field.
Hey, Cornwall say they were 90th, and they ended top. Then they went to top 25.
Yeah, it was a complete turnaround. So there's potential at USC that they can turn that around. But like I said, I don't think they have a problem on the offensive side of the ball. And Lincoln Riley is one of the best offensive minds in the game. It's the defense has always been the problem for them. So if they can get a decent or a good defense, I mean, they could be good this year.
I agree, Dre, because if you, especially last season, you look at USC's defense, it was porous. It's like you could do whatever you want against that defensive unit. It looked like guys were playing out of position, guys weren't being played, like guys didn't know the scheme. It was a horrendous showing, especially for like the back half of the defense. And I think with the pedigree that Lynn does have, he can get those guys playing at a higher level. He'll get them playing in position. He'll get them in a scheme that fits their talents. And I don't think USC technically has a hard road, because you reading out the schedule, Smitty. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a couple of tough games for them, but I think it's a pretty easy schedule, especially if that defense shows up the way I think they can.
Man, I don't know about easy though. Like Michigan, they have to go to the big house with that defense, and then I mean like Wisconsin, like at least they don't have to go to Wisconsin. I mean that's a positive thing, but I mean I don't think the Wisconsin game is going to be easy either. Minnesota, they should be all right. I mean, Penn State is in California, but that's still Penn State. Like that's going to be a tough game. I mean, Maryland got a lot of offense like they always do. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it's. I mean, they should beat Maryland, but I mean, I ain't gonna say it's gonna be easy. When they got Rutgers, Washington is rebuilding, so I don't think that game will be as hard as people think. Nebraska, it just depends on their quarterback situation. I don't know how easy or hard that game is gonna be. UCLA is a rivalry, and then like the last game is Notre Dame, which would be a hard game. I mean, it's a doable schedule, but I just think going into the Big 10, I mean, it's a new conference. I mean, like they play a different brand of football. So, I mean, that's the thing with these, I mean, like Pac-12 schools that are coming into this conference that concern me is that the Big 10 plays a different brand of football. So you kind of, you have to be able to, and I mean, like, sort of adjust to that. And so I think it's going to take some time. And then their first, I didn't even say who their first game was against. I mean, like they have to play the Tigers in the first game of the season. And so that's not gonna be a gimme either. So
Hey, J Mick, what I've been hearing is they can easily win that game. That's an
Whoa,
easy
whoa.
game for them.
Easy is
that's a
crazy. Now
Easy win.
I didn't said
Dre, I'm not
USC
even
can
talking
win,
about
but
you. That's what's so
easy is
funny.
crazy.
That's what's so funny, Dre. I'm not even talking about you, nigga.
I
Uh,
mean, see,
Easy is
So
crazy.
so
and I
y'all
can
know
see
I
if that
took
game
like
was
a
at USC or something. If that was a home game for them, then it might be a little bit easier
Yeah, but
for
it's
them.
damn near a home game, J Mick. It's in
But I mean,
Vegas.
yeah,
Yeah, it's in Vegas.
but
That's
it's still
damn near a
not.
home game. California, Vegas,
I
like
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
That's not that far of a travel
yeah,
either.
I mean, location wise, but I'm saying like if they had to play in like the Rose Bowl or like the Coliseum, that's what I'm saying. And they don't got to play there. I mean, I get it's Vegas, but you also got to figure like I mean, LSU fans travel well, and I mean they're gonna have a game in Las Vegas the first week of the season. I think they're gonna travel out there. I'm just saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
nah,
they
for
should.
sure.
Hey,
I know
but
y'all know I took like a little sabbatical of sort from college football while Willie Taggart was my coach or whatever. So I'm catching up. So most of my knowledge is basically over the last two seasons, right? I like Lincoln Riley. I like the move to the Big Ten. Um, I'm not sure it's going to be nice to him the first time out. Um, I like what he's doing culture wise, but he hasn't really done anything. I haven't seen it at USC. I actually expected more. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think they're gonna struggle, man. You know what I'm saying? Professional teams struggle traveling back across time. They come into the east, they come into the central and the eastern time zone a lot. And we talking about kids. Like professionals struggle with this. You know what I'm saying? So playing against a physical team like Rutgers on the East Coast is going to that's going to matter. You know what I'm saying? Playing Maryland, you might have more talent than them. You might be able to match their physicality, but playing on the East Coast is going to matter. I think they might struggle a little bit.
That time difference is gonna play a factor, bro.
Yeah, but
I do believe that.
so one thing to that, like what I'll say is like the schedule makers kind of did them a favor though, because it's like
The
most of their
330, that 330 deal.
no, I'm not even talking about the times. So if you look at
Oh,
their schedule, right? So like the only times that they really traveling outside the West Coast is early in the season, because I mean, like, so I give you an example. Like they have, I mean, like after October 25th, they only have two away games. Those both of those away games are on the West Coast. One's at UCLA, which pretty much is in LA, so that's not really, I mean, not really a road game. And then the second one is at Washington. So it's like they don't have
Yeah,
to travel to Michigan and later in the season. They don't have to travel to Minnesota later
right.
in the season from Maryland. So I mean, for this year, they kind of got a break. I don't see that happening, over the next couple years, but for this year, they kind of got a break.
I get
hey,
what you're saying. The tough teams, they not really getting them early. But I'm just saying that that 3 hours, man. You know what I'm saying for it, and I keep stressing this. Professionals struggle with this still. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know, man. I mean it's a thing. They say it when my team come to the East Coast. They say it all the time. It's something that I think about. So I just this is gonna be new for everybody, not just the players but the coaches too.
I do agree, sir, with that point, especially if you look at how far USC had to travel previously. It wasn't. It's not like they had to travel so far to the east in a lot of their games, which is they're doing this season. So I do agree that could play a part, especially with the time difference. being 3 hours ahead, yeah, that's gonna matter.
And I think the other thing is, I mean, like they don't have to play the Buckeyes, who's pretty much like everybody. It's a consensus that that's the best team in the conference. So I mean, they during the regular season they wouldn't have to play Ohio State, and if they made it to the championship game, then that'd be different. They would most likely have to play them or maybe like Oregon or something like that.
Do they have divisions in Big 10?
No,
Nah.
there's no more
No,
divisions
I
in
Okay.
think
any of the Power
all
4
conferences
conferences.
got one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
So
about that?
J-Mick,
How about that?
a point you made, J-Mick, is about the style of play in the Big 10. But I could argue that it's the same way for USC, that they have an advantage as far as style of play on offense goes. Now, the Big 10 teams, the defenses are a lot better than they've seen in the Pac-12. But the Pac-12 offenses, a lot of them were way better than what we saw on offense in the Big 10 last season.
Yeah, I mean,
the
that's
best Big 10 offense last year was in the 30s somewhere. And that was the best in the nation for them, was the 30s. So the offense is kind of lack in the Big 10, or at least they did last year. So if you could say, okay, USC's offense should probably have some success, but then it comes down to, are the Big 10 offenses better or the Pac-12 defense better? Right?
I mean,
like that's what it's going to come down to.
To me, it's like a push, man, because it's like on both. Like, I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I mean, the one thing, luckily for them, is like they don't have to play a defense like Iowa, because Iowa, their defense was top notch last year, and I think it's still going to be pretty good this year. So they don't have to face them, but they do have to face Michigan. And I mean, Michigan lost a lot, but that Michigan defense is still going to be the truth this year. Like I don't have any doubt about that. I mean, so you got to go against that defense. Normally, like Wisconsin defense is normally good. For the most part.
Yeah.
Penn State, they got to play. That's a really good. I mean, like that's one of the best defenses in the conference over the last 10 years. So you got to go against them. Maryland
in Penn State, period, dog.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about the Penn State game is they get that game in California, so it's not.
Oh yeah. They did them a solid.
Yeah, so you got them. I mean, Maryland,
because they definitely would have probably scheduled a whiteout, and you don't want the whiteout
Bro,
game.
I was
Penn
just
State.
about to say that, sir. I was like,
want that trouble.
Whiteout game? That is not. Whoa, that is
the craziest shit always happen in those whiteout games, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whiteout game this year is what is it? Penn State versus Washington, which is kind of a waste of a whiteout game.
Yeah,
Man,
I don't know, man. Washington, they
rebuilding.
No,
they're in a rebuild.
Who said USC always got offense?
Talent. They lost a lot of talent, not only on like both sides of the ball, but also in their coaching rooms. They lost talent. So I don't know what type of Washington team we're gonna get this season because of that.
Yeah, so I mean like the Washington game, like if this was last year, then yeah, that'd be a hard ass game for you.
All right, look, Washington is returning 2 starters from that whole team last year.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean it's new coaching staff, new players,
and they're both on defense. So
the bright side, the cold won't startle them. They're from Washington. It's cold as fuck up there, so maybe they can compete.
I mean, I think they're projected to win 4.5, or their over under is 4.5 games this year.
God damn. Yeah.
I mean,
Let me go look.
Yeah. Because you think about the Huskies, man, they lost their quarterback, they lost all 3 of their wide receivers, they lost 2 of their tackles, they running back, they center, tight end is gone too, right?
They lost the whole offense.
Mm-hmm.
They only brought back 2 starters from last year's team.
Yeah, Washington's gonna have a tough time in the Big 10, bro. they'll be lucky to win 5 games in that conference. I'm gonna be honest. Like that's just it's just the it's just the ebbs and flow. I mean who knows? I mean Washington could rebound in a couple of years, but in 2024 it's not really looking too promising.
Yeah, I just don't see it for him right now.
Yeah, but now as far as USC goes, man, it depends on their defense. It depends on how the defense looks and what's going on at the quarterback position. I think they're set up well there, but we still have to see it. Both of those spots. Because if you look in their receiver room, they still have a lot of talent over there. Like Zachariah Branch is a receiver I like a whole lot. Zachariah Branch is special. If he were to hit the portal, I think almost every team in the nation would be calling his phone trying to get him to come to their school. That kid is different.
And
And
I
they
think,
got some other guys too.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think when it comes to the Trojans, historically, like skill position wise, they always have really good skill position play. I mean, like there are very few times throughout the history of the Trojans where, like, in terms of running backs and wide receivers, that they don't have a lot of talent there. So I think that's just for them. That's just a constant. And then I mean, offensive line. I mean, like secretly, like their offensive line is actually not bad, you know, historically. I mean, like they always get a lot of guys in the league too. So I mean, that's just something to say. So. But I mean, like to me, like the Trojans in this conference is kind of like a sleeper team. I mean, like they could be really good. I mean, it's possible, but it's kind of like what Dre said. Like it really depends on the quarterback and the defense to me. And then if those things come out positive for them, I mean, I mean, like you're not really sure what they can do. I mean, like they might be a contender to play in like the Big 10 championship game. I mean, I'm not betting on it, but it's definitely. I mean, it's not out the question though.
For sure, J Mick, and they're one like I have them like kind of third, fourth right now. If I'm looking at the top teams in the Big 10, and it's the same point that we're going to keep reiterating is the defense is I'm looking at the positives that the defense can make, and if that defense can be better than what they were, I really do think that they could be knocking on the door for the Big 10 championship game.
I don't. Big 10 championship, man. It's just there's two other teams for sure that we're going to talk about that I just think are clearly going to run away with this conference. I think there's two teams that are going to run away with it, but I think USC can be good. But they got some of those games on their schedule are tough. Like the LSU game is a winnable game, but it's going to be a tough game. And the only reason it's winnable is because both sides really have question marks going into the game. Both sides have a lot of talent. It's just, can they do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it really comes down to. Will they do it early on? Right?
Yeah, so like
both sides were replacing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the one thing I say about that first game, though, like I feel as if that the Tigers, like the last couple of years, man, that first game of the season, man, they ain't really came out and played well at all. Like
it's been nasty.
Yeah,
UCLA, FSU, yeah, it ain't really been good showings.
Yeah, so like that's my thing is like they haven't come out and played well that first game, and I think this year, man, Brian Kelly gonna have them come out ready to play. I just think he will, and so I just think that's what makes that game difficult for me to call because the history of LSU the last couple of years not playing well in that first game. I mean, like their quarterback is not. I mean, he's not a freshman. He's been at the school for a while, and it's kind of the same situation with the Trojan quarterback. Like he's been at USC, just hasn't been the starter. So I mean, the funny thing is for the Tigers and the Trojans, like they're coming into somewhat similar situations. I mean, the Tigers defense to me is better, but it's for me as a college football watcher, like I'm definitely watching that game. Like there's no way that I'm not gonna watch that game.
For sure, I think that's one of the top matchups to start the season. And like to your point, J Mick, I have a lot of question marks about LSU that this first game is going to answer for me. Like, did this defense get better? Is the play calling on the defense a lot better? How are my DBs looking, especially my corner positions? Like, what is their performance going to be in this game? And then also, I still have question marks about the D line. I need to see what that production is going to be like. So yeah, I think I honestly think the USC LSU game is pretty even. So I don't think one side is watching the other.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Next team on the list. Oh man, hey, sir, you want to get your famous line for the next team on the list?
What's that?
Come on, man. You
know who
you know
it
the
is,
team.
man.
Who we got next?
You know who it is.
The team and their logo is like the big red R.
Redskins?
Nah, man. Come on, man.
Same
Bro.
stage as Giants.
Yeah, they
Scarlet
biggest fan
Knights.
is a Giants
Rutgers?
fan. Yeah.
Rutgers got a football team?
Oh man.
Just funny.
Man. So they got a big transfer from Minnesota, man, coming in for their quarterback. I don't know how to say his last name, but his first name is Ethan. I don't know how to say that. I think this team here, man, looking at their schedule, looking at what they projected to do, I think this could be a team that sees some type of success this year. I don't know about like winning the Big 10 and nothing like that, but maybe a decent bowl game comes out of this. I don't know. They got like Illinois, Michigan State. Them and Maryland always have a good game. That USC game on the road is going to be big. That Nebraska game, depending on what Nebraska we get, I think they got a winnable schedule, man. I mean, what y'all think about Rutgers? I think they could be a 6 or 7 win team this year, maybe 8.
So Rutgers is an interesting team, right? Because I mean, yeah, it's Rutgers, so nobody really takes Rutgers seriously, but it might be time to start taking Rutgers seriously, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at last year, the defense ranked top 50 nationally in total defense, 16th overall. A lot of people don't use total defense, though, but they were 32nd in the nation in scoring, 41st in the nation in rushing, and 10th in passing defense. So that defense was good. Like, they had a really good defense last year. And the offensive side of the ball, they win as the running back went, right? The running back position for them was important in it. He stepped up last year. They actually ran the ball, I think it was almost 62% of the time, right? And their running back led the Big 10 in rushing and was the first 1,000-yard rusher in the program in the last 11 years. So Rutgers might be a team that's kind of on an uptick right now. They're returning 15 of the 22 starters from last season. I mean, 8 of those starters, I think it was. Hold on, 8 of them were on defense, 7 on offense. They're telling me a defense that was really good last year is returning the majority of that defense and have a year more of experience under their belt. I don't think Rutgers is going to compete for the Big 10 championship or anything like that either, but I think Rutgers is going to be one of those teams that could potentially hurt somebody else's playoff chances, right? They could be one of those teams that teams don't necessarily want to play throughout the season.
Facts. That's kind of where I'm at with them too, Dre.
So, I mean, for me, like, I think Rutgers has a similar path like they had last year. Like, I think they could get to about 6 wins and they get to a bowl game. I mean, maybe 7 if they catch a team off guard on their schedule. So I mean, that's the way I look at them. Like, I can't say they're gonna win more than 7 games. I mean, that's just a bridge too far for me. I mean, personally, but I think they could find themselves another bowl game. This year, because I mean, like, they went to a bowl game last year and they beat Miami. So, I mean, you got to take it for what it's worth. I mean, and so in terms of Rutgers, like, for them. I mean, that's a successful season. They won 6 games in the regular season and they won a bowl game. So, I mean, and like, I can see them doing the same kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, like, as far as what everybody else said, like, defensively, like, I expect the defense to be good. Like, I mean, it's just who their coach is, and how they've been defensively over the last couple of years. They've kind of shown you defensively what they can be, and then I think they could do something similar. I mean, my questions come on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I just don't. My issue with Rutgers over the last couple of years has just been how much offense can they generate. And I mean, like, I hate to say it, but they're in a good conference not to have to generate that much offense. But the problem is with certain schools that you're going to play, like schools like they got to play UCLA and USC, schools like that. Like, you're going to have to generate some offense to beat those 2 schools in particular. And so that's where my question comes in. But I mean, like I said, like, I mean, like, I can see them winning. I mean, maybe 6 games, maybe 6 is the floor, and maybe 7 is the ceiling.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't really looked at the schedule for Rutgers. I've been doing a little more homework on other teams. But I mean, I don't know. You bring in a new quarterback, you bring in 2 new receivers who they have high hopes for. You're bringing in
Dre, you said you haven't seen the schedule?
No, I haven't seen the schedule yet.
They got home against Howard, home against Akron, on the road at Virginia Tech, home against Washington, on the road against Nebraska, home against Wisconsin, home against UCLA, on the road against USC, home against Minnesota, on the road against Maryland, home against Illinois, on the road against Michigan State.
So in the first 4 games,
I mean, they should go 3-1.
They could go 3-1, yeah.
Because I think Virginia Tech is supposed to be better this year.
Virginia Tech is returning every single starter from last year, and they weren't bad last year, so they should be better this year. So yeah, they'll start. They could definitely start 3-1 because I do think they can beat Washington, especially because I think. Yeah, that's at home. So yeah, they can definitely beat Washington. Nebraska. Nebraska, I think we're going to talk about them, but Nebraska is one of those ones that
we got a super chat from We Got Tom. He say not a single starter for Miami played in that game, and the quarterback was 4th on the depth chart.
Man, we don't care about that. Y'all lost the game, man. That sounds like a culture problem to me. If none of your starters played, then that sounds like a culture issue. Because J-Mick, y'all didn't make the playoffs this past year, and I promise you, this is not a shot. Because I'm gonna bring us up next. How many of your starters played? Everybody that was healthy, right?
Pretty much all of them except for like Brock and Brock didn't play, but I mean, what's his name actually played like a quarter. So
yeah, so everybody that could play played for y'all.
Yeah,
the year before when we didn't make the playoffs, Kansas State, everybody played. I mean, I'm talking about first round picks were still out on the field, like they were playing like it was a normal game. So that's a culture issue to me. If your guys on the field, don't come in with that excuse. Get your coach to coach your guys up and have them ready to go out there and play. You recruit at a high level every year. You shouldn't be losing to Rutgers if you are the program that you say you are.
John on John crime is crazy, man. It's crazy.
Little giant on giant crime ain't never hurt nobody.
But now, look, I don't know, man. Rutgers, they could beat Nebraska. I think we're gonna talk about Nebraska a little bit later. But outside of Nebraska, you had 4, 5, 6.
Shout out to Cornwall for the $4.99 super chat. He said Miami gonna lose in the swamp week 1.
I don't think that's that crazy, man. I don't think that's that crazy, man. I mean, going to the swamp, man, that's a hard place to play. Just saying, it's possible.
That I'll tell you what, they better not lose that game. You lose that game, it's not looking good for Cristobal.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I mean, like my team hasn't played the swamp in a while, but that's going to change after this year. But I just know, like, going into that swamp and trying to play, man, it's not a easy place to play.
No, that's a tough game. And I don't think you can just guarantee a Miami win. Now, could they win? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they have a great chance too, but I don't think it's like a guaranteed L.
And you're gonna have to go in there and beat Florida, bro. Like, that's the one thing about the swamp that like, and the thing is, like, last year, like Tennessee kind of figured that out. Like, you got to go in there and you got to beat them because I mean, like, they're not just gonna give you the game in the swamp. That's just not what they're gonna do.
Hey, J-Mick, you know who else has to play in the swamp this year?
And who's that?
The Tigers of LSU.
Oh boy.
Oh man. All right, so that's Rutgers for us there. Hey man, it's time to get into one of these big dogs, man. We got Michigan on the schedule, a team that lost a whole lot. Can you tell me how many returning, Andre? I know you know.
I got it right here. I got my list. Let me look on the iPad real quick. Michigan is returning 5 total starters, 4 on defense, 1 on offense.
I mean, like, from the naked eye, that might seem like a lot, but like a lot of those like defensive players, they were there though. They might not have been starting, but
bro, I know you see that super chat.
Nah.
He said on the scale of, I ain't gonna say the word, where is Drew Allen between Glorilla and Cardi B?
I mean, Alex, and we're gonna get to that a little bit later in the show.
Oh,
We
man.
definitely
I'm
gonna talk about a
dying.
lot later.
Hey, sir.
A little later in the show.
Hey, that's a cert insult right there, bro. That's
Yeah,
a certified
That's
insult.
crazy.
But yeah, I mean, like,
Dude, what is a cert insult? What I do?
Bro,
Nah, that
that
do
man
sound like
said,
something you would say.
he said
Definitely.
on a scale
Facts.
of ass,
it really
where is
did.
Drew Allen between Cardi B and Glorilla, bro? That's what you would say, bro.
Yeah, scale of ass is crazy.
I mean, that's something that you would say though. I couldn't put it past you.
100%, no.
Hey man, it all depends, man. You know.
Oh man! All right, my bad, bro. Go ahead.
Hey Neff, if you still listening, man, I just saw your message, man. I got it done.
Yeah, so I mean, like Michigan, like that's the sneaky thing is like they don't have a lot of returning starters, but they got a lot of returning players, especially on that defense. So like one thing I don't question about Michigan is the defense. Like I think the defense is still going to be really good. I mean, they still got a lot of, I mean, like really, really great players on that side of the ball. And I mean, like even offensively, I mean, like I mean, Donovan Edwards, he's coming back, which I was shocked. Like I was surprised he didn't go to the draft. Like if I was him, I probably would have went to the draft last year, but he, he started to go and then he decided not to. So I mean, for Michigan, he's going to be a very important piece of that offense. Like I think he's going to be vital. Quarterback wise, I mean, it's a quarterback that I really don't know. Like I don't know how good Alex I think his name is Orgy, or I mean however you say his last name.
It's Orgy.
Yeah, Orgy. Like I don't know how good he is. And so that's my question with that. And then I mean, like they lost, I mean, like wide receivers that went to the league. So it's like the wide receivers they have is just like they're gonna need those guys to perform well. I mean, offensive line, I'm not too concerned. And then I think what the coach of the team was the OC last year, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he did actually coach a couple of games last year too.
Yeah, so I so I think in that aspect from the coaching staff and the transfer from Harbaugh to him, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's nothing because I mean like Harbaugh's a really good coach, so I mean it's definitely a drop off, but I got to see how much of a drop off it's gonna be.
Oh man, this man got me crying. He said for sure inspired by Certified. Shout out to Certified.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh yeah.
See, this why people be talking so bad about me, man. See how y'all do me, man. It's crazy.
Oh man,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy y'all do me like this, man.
It do sound like something you would say. I'm just saying.
Nah, for sure. But to Michigan, I'll say this. I want to see how that offense performs. But I don't really have too many concerns for Michigan because they're one of those teams that grow a lot of their talent. They do get some talent out of the transfer portal, but a lot of their guys do stay with the program and stay within the system. So I think Michigan is still like one of the top two teams in that conference. And this season, the question marks about the wide receivers are going to be answered. What production we're going to get out of the quarterback, we're going to see, because we didn't really see a lot from JJ last year. So we'll see what type of offense they're going to be running. But I don't really see a big drop off for Michigan this season.
So Michigan's offensive line, they lost 6 of their offensive linemen to the draft last year. The only returning starter on that offensive line was the right tackle. It was probably the worst starter on that offensive line last year. I do want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I feel like Sharon Moore is one of the best offensive line coaches in the nation. He was offensive coordinator and O-line coach last year. And they've had good offensive lines under it. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt with the offensive line. It is a question to me, but I do think he'll have them right up front. At quarterback, yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit. Alex Orji he's an athletic freak, but we don't know if he can throw the football. Last year, they let him throw the ball, if I'm not mistaken, one time all season, which is weird because when JJ was the backup, they actually let JJ throw the ball. When they would bring JJ into the game, you actually saw him throw the ball some. So I don't know what we're going to get out of him. I mean, Edwards, I do think Edwards is one of the better running backs in the nation. You're replacing all the receivers. What I will say, though, is they have one of the best, if not the best, overall tight end in college football this year. Loveland is like that.
Yeah, he is.
And that defense is, I mean, like J-Mix said, yes, you have a lot of guys that left, but you still have, I would say, four real key pieces on your defense that are going to be really important this year. One of them is not going to be there to start the year. That's Rod Moore. He's dealing with injury right now, but I do think he's supposed to be ready to start the season. I just don't know if he's going to be at camp. But you have him. You have Will Johnson, who could be the first cornerback taken next year. And then you have those big boys up front, man. Those guys up front, those guys are really crazy. That's the best tandem of defensive tackles. When you're talking about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, those guys are like that. Like those guys are really good. They were really good last year. I expect them to be good this year again. You have Wink calling the defense over there. I thought it was interesting. I do think he has the pieces he needs to run his defense. I just wonder if he's going to be able to adjust to the college game. I don't think the scheme is going to be much different than what they ran last year because, fun fact, with Harbaugh's dad gave Wink his start in the 80s. I forgot the name of the school that they started at, but that's where he started coaching. So they all run like the similar defense, and then they have this Baltimore connection and everything like that. So the defense shouldn't change much. I just want to see how Wink adjusts, right? Because I still think it's different calling an NFL game than a college game. But if he can adjust and they can have some of the transfers they brought in or some of the backups from last year step up, then I think that defense has potential to be a top 10 defense with some of those pieces they have. So I think Michigan can be good. To me, it comes down to the offense. I have to see what they're going to do on the offense side of the ball.
And also think when it comes to the defense, like, like if you're, obviously we all have college teams, NFL teams, and if you need a D tackle, like Mason Graham is that guy. Like he really is that nice. And you might have, in my opinion, I think he's definitely going first round. Like I just think, like unless he has a bad season, I don't know how he don't go first round. And the same go for Will Johnson. I don't think Will gonna have a bad season and he could still be a top 10 pick. I mean that's just how good that he was last year. So like those are some names to like watch out for. If you need a running back, Donovan Edwards is gonna be like I don't know if he's going first round. Like I wouldn't take him in the first round, but he's a good running back that's gonna go into the draft because he's gonna be a senior. So he has to leave after this year. So
yeah, I agree. I think he'll be drafted. I think he'll be a contributor at the next level. I just don't know how early, especially because this class is stacked when it comes to running backs. I'm pretty sure at some point we'll talk about just running backs in college football this year. And it's crazy, the guys that are draft eligible. I was looking at the list again the other day, and there's so much talent at that running back position. There's going to be a lot of people are going to be excited about these running backs come draft time.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the next team, I guess we could go with another team that had to move over, man, to come to this league. Go with Oregon. Oregon is on the list. Oregon is on the list. Ooh. And they lost their starting quarterback. It's a lot of these teams is new quarterbacks, man. What's going on?
I mean, we had a lot of quarterbacks drafted last year, man. A lot of them. So
yeah, Dylan.
But they got Andre favorite, quarterback outside of Jalen Milroe.
How is that my favorite quarterback? Don't do that to me. Don't ever do. No. I do think.
Man, you like Dylan Gabriel, man.
Nah, I don't like Dylan Gabriel. Like, I'm not a Dylan Gabriel fan. I will say, I do think Dylan Gabriel could potentially have a good season, or he's not even potentially. He should have a good season with Oregon, and he's probably going to be like a top 10 quarterback in college football this year. They have one of the best wide receiver groups in the nation. Trayshawn Holden, Ted Johnson, and Evan Stewart. That's a hell of a trio to have. Then you look at that offensive line. They got two bookend tackles that are probably both going to the draft this year. And in the last 2 years, Oregon has given up a total of, it was either 10 or 11 sacks. Well, think about that. In the last 2 years, 10 or 11 sacks. Now, part of that is the scheme, and part of it is just because that offense line is good. But I think that offense can have a lot of success. They're actually, right now, slightly favored, in my opinion, over Ohio State to win the conference.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's who I got winning the conference is Oregon this year.
Oh, interesting. Very, very interesting. I mean, I know a lot of Buckeye fans that don't feel that way. So,
I mean, look, I wouldn't expect them to feel that way, right? But I don't know, man. I like that Oregon team. I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State wins it. And to be honest, by the time their game comes around, my opinion could change. But when it comes to Ohio State, we'll get more into them a little bit later. But Will Howard is a question mark for me, man. That's my only thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But now Oregon, I mean, they have a lot of talent. They work the portal pretty well. I don't see why they shouldn't be one of the better, or why they shouldn't be at least in the conversation for being the best team in the Big 10 this year.
Yeah, I mean, like Oregon, like when I look at Oregon, like for me, like in the Big 10, to me, it's like Ohio State and Oregon. Like that's kind of how I look at the conference in terms of the top two teams. And I just think once you get to Oregon and Oregon, Ohio State, like you kind of have a little bit of a gap, in my opinion. That's just the way I view it. And so like Oregon for me, like it's kind of like what Dre said. I mean, like they have a really good wide receiver group coming back. Like offensive line, they haven't really given up a lot of sacks, like you said. So I expect those areas to be the strength. Now, my issue is with, is with the quarterback. I mean, the quarterback is coming from the Sooners. So, and I mean, it depends who you ask them. You talk to the right Sooner fan, they're going to tell you that he was forced out. And so I guess the good thing about the Ducks is like they have a recent history of bringing in quarterbacks that weren't really great at their last location, and they kind of turned them into something that they weren't before. They did that with Bo Nix. I mean, I don't know if they could do that with Dylan. I mean, it's going to be interesting if they could do that with him. I just don't know. For me, like I don't like. I get that like Oregon is the favorite in the Big 10, but for me, they're not my favorite. So I mean, I do expect them to be in the Big 10 championship game. But that's just not who I have that's going to win that conference. And that's just the way I look at it. And then I actually pulled up their schedule. I mean, the schedule's not too bad. I mean, like the Challenger games is obviously they have to play Ohio State. But they get that game in Oregon. They got to go to the Big House and play Michigan. That should be a tough game. And they got to go to Wisconsin in November, which might be more difficult than what some people think. But other than that, like I just don't see a lot on their schedule that should prevent them from being in the Big 10 championship. Like it's just not a lot else. I mean, like they're playing teams like Purdue and like Illinois and Maryland and Washington. And I don't know, so I'm not sure if I said Purdue and Michigan State and UCLA and Oregon. Like, it's just not. It's not a lot there that should really prevent them from getting to the Big Ten championship game.
Um, Unrelated. Uh, it's not breaking news. I'm just doing this on purpose. The Jacksonville Jaguars just put Eric Armstead on the pup. I hope the Jaguars fans heard that.
What are you
Put
trying
him
to
on
say?
the pup.
What are you?
You on the pup list?
No, because people keep reminding me that we lost Eric Armstead, and I'm like, how do you lose somebody that you cut? We cut him. We didn't lose him. We cut him,
Yeah,
and
but didn't
this
you
is
cut
why
him?
his foot is fucked up. His foot is fucked up.
Yeah, but didn't you cut him because he wanted like more, like he wasn't want to take a pay cut or
No,
something?
yeah, he wasn't going to take a pay cut.
They
Okay.
wanted
So
him to take a pay cut because he was hurt, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
so
always he has plantar whatever.
fasciitis.
It's a bone in his foot that can't be
But yeah,
repaired. It has to heal on its own, and it keeps breaking because he's not supposed to be 300 pounds.
yeah, I can say one thing about that. Like, I mean, if he has like plantar fasciitis, like I've had that because, like, I mean, I used to run a lot back in the day, and certified right. Like, if he has that, like, you can't have surgery on that. Like, it got to heal on its own, and that's just a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. So
So that's why they let him go because he's always out, and then it's like they don't know when this shit gonna flare up. He might play 6 games, he might play 8, he might play 10, but if it flares up again, he's done for the season.
didn't y'all draft like a D tackle too though?
Yeah, we drafted Kinlaw, but even him, man, like he had back to back um uh what's this shit preseason, not in the same season but back to back different preseasons. He had an offensive lineman fall on his knee, you know what I'm saying? So it's like his second and third year he was rehabbing, a torn meniscus or partially torn ACL and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like and it just fucked his knees up. He got a bad knee now.
Didn't he go to the Jets or something?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I was talking about this past draft that we just had. Like, I could have sworn that y'all drafted the D tackles.
Oh, I don't think we did. I think this is the first draft. We didn't
Okay.
draft a defensive tackle.
I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. Um, yeah.
I know we drafted a safety and a linebacker. Um, but nah, nah, because we always draft a defensive tackle, and I don't think we did this year.
Oh, and I thought y'all got one later in the draft. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just for the people that always want to remind me that we lost players. He's on the pup already. That's all. Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's all right. Uh, I mean, like, unless someone else wants to chime in about the Oregon Ducks, I mean,
Now Oregon, they cool, you know. I could see them competing for the Big Ten championship. I just need to see how their style of play translates into the Big Ten. Because I know they were good Pac-12 team, but the brand of football in the Big Ten, to y'all said, is different, especially the defenses you're gonna go up against in that conference is different. So I just need to see how Oregon performs against that. But they're one of the teams I have as like a top 4 school right now in the conference. And if they can play up to the level I think they can, they'll be a potential playoff team coming out.
So the thing about Oregon, right? Dan Lanning is the head coach at Oregon. And if you know the history of Dan Lanning, he got a chance from Saban and he got hired by Kirby to go be on Kirby's staff, and then he got the head coaching job at Oregon. He recruits like an SEC team. Like if you look at his recruiting, that's how he recruits. And I think that's why I'm so high on Oregon, because Oregon recruits the one thing that a lot of teams in the Pac-12 didn't, which was trenches, right? But they outside of the trenches, let's say something happened, God forbid, to Dylan Gabriel this season, he gets hurt. The backup quarterback is a 5-star, right? He's waiting to get on the field. He went to Oregon to get his opportunity after Dylan Gabriel leaves. But he's a good quarterback. Like I said, with the receivers, they have the receivers. The offense line should be good. I'm blanking on a running back right now, but their offense will be good. The defensive side of the ball should be good. We have to see it on that side too, but I don't really think there's a lot of question marks on that Oregon team. Because like Dylan Gabriel, yes, he left Oklahoma, and it was a situation where they were bringing in a 5-star quarterback. They weren't going to sit him for 2 years. Everybody kind of knew that. And it's not that he got pushed out like that because he wasn't good or anything. It was just like, no, we don't want this guy to leave. So we have to kind of go with the future instead of sticking with the older guy. But Dylan Gabriel last season was, as far as production goes, a top 3 returning guy, like going into the season. If you go look at all the returning starters for the 4 teams, or just returning quarterbacks in general, they don't have to be going back to the same team, but he was top 3 as far as production goes. So they do have one of the better experienced quarterbacks in college football, and I think we'll see that on the field this year.
I mean, I think Dylan Gabriel could be he could be decent for Oregon. I mean, I've seen them, turn Bo Nix into an NFL caliber quarterback. So, I mean, Dylan Gabriel was already pretty highly talented coming into this, into this Oregon organization. So I think he could have a good season. But it's gonna all come down to performance on the field at this point, right? So the next team is Nebraska. To me, looking at the roster, man, it looks like they're gonna be starting true freshman Dylan Raiola from Georgia. They got 2 transfer receivers coming in. One from Texas, Isaiah Nayer, and the other one came from Wake Forest, Jamal Banks. I mean, this team to me is always kind of decent. I mean, they're not like really an overly powered team, but they play some hard football. Their trenches is usually good. They can give you a problem when their running game is being executed at its best. I mean, Nebraska is a tough team to go in their house and win. I mean, I think Nebraska. I ain't gonna say they're gonna have a whole bunch of wins, but I think they can upset a couple of teams this season. Maybe one or two big wins coming out of Nebraska. What y'all think?
So with Nebraska, Dylan Raiola should be the starter. Dylan Raiola, he's a legacy kid. His dad played offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, in Nebraska. And his uncle actually is the offensive line coach at Nebraska right now. His recruitment, he was the number 1 quarterback in the class at one point. He didn't end that. I think he ended the 2nd quarterback or the 3rd quarterback in the class, but he was pretty high up there. But his whole recruitment was kind of weird, and I don't know what kind of expectations I have from the kid, because originally he committed to Georgia, but he didn't like the fact that Georgia was going after another quarterback in Puglisi. I think Ryan Puglisi is his name. And when he signed, Raiola didn't like that, because Raiola kind of didn't really want the competition. He ended up decommitting and then going to Nebraska, where he was guaranteed basically to start this year. I don't know what he's going to be. I don't necessarily like kids that don't want to compete. Like, if you have the mentality of, no, I want to be handed the job as a freshman, it makes me kind of question how good you really. Because to me, part of being a really good player at the college or NFL level is also mentality, right? you have to have the mentality that I don't care who else is out there. I'm going to show that I'm the best, in my opinion. I don't think he has that necessarily. Now, maybe he does. Maybe there was just more involved, or he just wanted to be around his uncle and following his dad's footsteps. But it was definitely a weird recruitment there. And I'll say this, though. They do have Matt Rule. So Matt Rule, obviously everybody knows, was bad in the NFL. But Matt Rule has
Baylor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he has a track record of turning college programs around. And he does it pretty fast. Baylor, he turned around. Before he turned around Baylor, he turned around Temple. So him being at Nebraska,
Temple, that's the other school. Temple,
yeah, him being in Nebraska, he could definitely turn that program around. I just don't think this is the year where it gets turned around. I think they could make some strides this year. I don't know what kind of recruiting class they're bringing in 25. I didn't look at that, but even if they don't have the greatest recruiting class, if they can recruit the portal well and bring in some talent to surround Raiola with, maybe they're a team within the next year or two that you could see being a more competitive team. But I don't necessarily see it this year from Nebraska.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to Nebraska, like I kind of feel like Dre feels in a certain kind of way because I don't expect them to have a great year this year. I mean, it's I think it's Rule's what it was his first year coaching there. So I just think there's gonna be some growing pains. I mean, like Raiola is a talented kid, but it's like what Dre said earlier. Like it seemed to me like he just doesn't love to compete. Like I mean, like anytime he's presented with a challenge that he's got to compete for his position, he doesn't really stick around. So, I mean, but I guess in this situation, I guess he's going to be the starter. So I guess he doesn't have to really worry about that. Unless something happens during the season where his play dips off and like Rule decides to go with the backup, which I just don't know how likely that really is going to be. But I mean, like what everybody else said, like Rule has a history of turning around programs quickly. I just don't think it's going to be this year. Like I think in the Big 10, like this is a team to watch out for maybe in 2 years. Just not this year. But I mean, like they have some intriguing games on their schedule as well. I mean, to me, like one of the more intriguing games is like I think they have to play Colorado, and to me, it's an intriguing game because they played each other last year, and I mean Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, won that game. So I mean, like that's an intriguing game for some people on their schedule, which is a game where I think they could win that game.
The only thing I will say, like I think it's okay to say like the defense is going to be really good for Nebraska this year. Last year they were the 11th ranked defense nationally. They were able to retain their defensive coordinator, and he actually stated his goal for this year, which I mean I think any coach would say, but his goal this year is to have the #1 defense in college football. I don't think they're that good, but I think the defense could be good. They brought back, I think it was 3 or 4 of top tacklers from last year's team. So I'm expecting them to have defensive success. And if I'm wrong about Raiola and he lights it up year one, could they be competitive this year? Yes. It's just I don't necessarily see Raiola getting it done this year.
Yeah, and I mean I'm looking at their schedule. I mean it's not incredibly difficult. I mean they got UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois, and I mean all those games. I mean all these games are at home. The first 4, and they got to go to Purdue. They're at home against Rutgers, at home against Indiana. They have to go to the Horseshoe to play Ohio State. They get UCLA at home, and then they have USC at USC, and then they get Wisconsin, and then they have to go to Iowa for the last game of the season. I mean, like, it's kind of like like if Raiola is really good. I mean, I could see them maybe winning 5-6 games. I mean, it's possible, maybe even more than that. I mean, because the schedule is not. I mean, the heavy lifting part of the schedule is I mean, at Ohio State, at USC, and I mean at Iowa. I mean, the Wisconsin game going to be kind of tricky because I think Wisconsin going to be better this year too. So I mean, there's some tricky games there, but I mean, like the first month to month and a half of the season, man. I mean, their first 6 games is pretty light. I mean, it's not to me, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, I just Yeah, Nebraska, I don't think they get it done this year. I think there's too much that would have to click for them to get it done in year one with Viola. So I'm
Yeah, I just
not
don't see it for
expecting them to be one of the better
Nebraska
teams in the
right now.
conference.
All right, so we can move on to the big dog, man. The conference championship winner last year, right? Yeah. No. Michigan was the conference championship winner. Ohio State was the runner-up. But the team with Will Howard, man, highly spoken of, around the world about what he should be able to do for Ohio State and Ryan Day. I think the coach is on the hottest seat in America. If he don't get it done this year, I don't know what his future looks like. Ohio State, man, I mean they consistently top of the league, but they seem to can't get it done. So, what y'all think about Ohio State?
I mean, with Ohio State, yeah, Will Howard to me is a concern. I think they have probably the best duo of running backs in the nation with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Both of those guys to me are really special.
Hey, Judkins, he came from Ole Miss.
He came from Ole Miss, yeah.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think with them bringing over Chip Kelly to be the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly likes to run the football. So that kind of gives me less concern when it comes to the quarterback position because I do think Will Howard is kind of athletic and he can be used in the run game. I just don't know how you rely on him in the pass game. And the other thing is, I got a couple of questions about the offense line, especially the center position. From what everybody tells me that I talk to that are Ohio State fans, their starting center this year is going to be Seth McLaughlin. Now, if you don't know who Seth McLaughlin is, probably one of the most hated people in the state of Alabama. If you watch the Michigan versus Alabama game, that was a center that had those bad snaps, and that was actually like a trend that he had all last season.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so they brought him in, and he is the starter now. He said there was injuries, but it's been almost 2 years of bad snaps, so I don't know what kind of injury he had that was 2 years long, but we'll see if he can get better this year. And I do think that if he doesn't work out at center, then they'll probably move him to guard. And I forgot the other guy's name, but they have another option at center. So the offense line isn't a huge concern, but I am looking at that offense line. That's really the only question I have outside of the quarterback for the team. The wide receiver room is one of the best in the nation, and I think they're going to have one of the best defenses in the nation. So I don't really have a lot of questions when it comes to that team.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dre, especially with that O line. I didn't realize that y'all center transferred to Ohio State. So yeah, that's a big question mark. But I think my question is not necessarily about the team because I know the team is gonna play hard, and I know the team is gonna, be at the top of the conference. My thing is, if Ohio State doesn't get it done, what's gonna happen with the head coach? Is this his make it or break it year? That's my question for Ohio State. It's not really about the players or the team outside of the head coach.
I mean,
I think he out of there. I think if he don't achieve the goal, he gonna be
but it's
finding
not
another job.
But to me, it's not even just winning the Natty. Like he got to beat Michigan, bro. I think he's only beat Michigan one time.
One time.
He's beaten Michigan more than once.
He's 1-3.
He's one
He's
and 3.
1-3.
He only been there 4 years.
He's 1-3.
Ryan Day's only been the head coach
for 4 years.
Yeah, think about it. What's your boy? What's his name?
You're talking about Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
That seemed like more than 4 years ago.
Well, I mean, like he was coaching. I mean, like, well, the thing is, he's been at Ohio State longer than 4 years. He's just only been the head coach for 4 years.
No, I felt like it was longer.
Huh? Yeah, Nah, yeah, I mean, like the funny thing is, I felt the same way until I researched. I'm like, well, he only really been the head coach for 4 years. But yeah, like
Yeah, because y'all got to think about it. Urban Meyer left for Jacksonville job 2020, I think.
yeah, and that was right
2021.
when
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence got drafted.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like I just think, like I honestly agree. I think his seat is pretty hot, man. Like, I mean, at the very least, he got to beat Michigan. At the very least.
And you know what's funny? His first and only win against Michigan was with basically Urban Meyer team because it was the next year, and then he's lost 3 straight.
Yeah, I mean, he just.
But there's something that goes into that too. Like, hold on, when did he became? So in 2019, he became the head coach, right? So he was head coach.
2020 was his
season.
first time. 2020 he won.
2020 they didn't play. They didn't play. Michigan forfeited.
2021 he won. My bad. 2021 he won.
Michigan forfeited that game. No, they didn't win in 21. He won in 19. It had to have been 19. 20 was forfeited.
Yeah, 19, 56 to 27.
23. Yeah, because Michigan's won the last 3. So
yeah, 56 to 27, 2019.
When it comes to that, I think he has to either beat Michigan and at least win the conference this year, or if he doesn't win the conference and beat Michigan, he has to win the national championship to me. Like, I don't think that there's a world where you lose to Michigan again this year and don't win the national championship and you're retained next year as the head coach, especially because despite the reports that Vrabel wouldn't want to coach Ohio State, I've heard from some people that that's not
true. I heard. Yeah,
that's not true. So Vrabel would definitely be an option after this year. And I mean, I don't think he's the only one that would be an option. I think there's a guy at Wisconsin, if he has a pretty good season and they end up firing the head coach, maybe they bring back Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell's a good head coach. It didn't work out first time, but you know.
Or they could always keep it in-house and, I mean, hire like the wide receiver coach who was, I mean, like Brian Hartline to be the head coach too. I mean, I've definitely heard people saying that as well. I mean, that's kind of more out there, but I do think that's a possibility as well.
It could happen. My only thing with that, right, if you're that high on Hartline, you don't bring in an offensive coordinator. You let Hartline be the offensive coordinator. They basically overhired him because, I mean, does anybody really think Chip Kelly's not going to be play call? Like, everybody knows he's going to be the play caller. And even before then, they brought in Bill O'Brien to call plays.
Yeah, that's true.
Bill O'Brien. And I don't think they're as high. I think his recruiting is good, but I don't know. I mean, as far as the X's and O's goes, I don't know how good he really is. He might just be one of those guys that is better suited to be a recruiter. I do think he gets his opportunity eventually. I don't know if it'll be Ohio State.
Yeah, he's gonna be a head coach somewhere because I mean, the way he recruits that position, I mean, he does it the best in the nation. So I mean, he's gonna get a chance at some point. And then I mean, just looking at Ohio State's schedule, man, like this, I mean, for as much people that tell me that my team's schedule was bad last year, this schedule is, I mean, like they get Oregon and Michigan and Penn State, but outside of them 3 games, I mean, they should win. Say what?
You said it's Rudy Poo? It's Kate?
I mean, yeah. I mean, like they're playing Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall. Then they got to go at Michigan State, which is like it's not a rivalry game. And then they got Iowa at home, and then they got to go to Oregon, which is good. That's going to be a tough game. And they get Nebraska at home, and then they have to go to Penn State, which the Penn State game should be a tough game. But in recent years, man, Penn State has not beaten Michigan or the Buckeyes in a while. So I mean, that I'll give them that's a quality game that they have to go and play. I'll give them that. And then they have Purdue at home. They have to go to Northwestern. They play Indiana at home, and then they play Michigan at home. Like to me, it's like a 3-game schedule to me, because I mean the rest of them teams, I mean, like they should mop up.
Oh no, I think though certain teams on their schedule are going to give them their very, very best. Like Iowa, Iowa, they hired a new offensive coordinator, so I'm interested to see how that offense looks this year. The defense, I mean, we know the defense is going to be good. But the offense has always been the problem with Iowa. But if they can actually go get a average to above average offense, Iowa could become a scary team in that conference. Now, it's a question mark, but by then, that's what the 5th game of the year. So they've had a little bit of time to kind of figure things out at Iowa. So that one could be tough. And then especially because that game is right before the Oregon game. Like Iowa and then Oregon back to back is not easy.
Yeah,
Now that
but it's the Iowa
Nebraska,
game at home though. That's the only thing.
yeah, but still, like you're playing Iowa and Oregon back to back. Like even if you beat Iowa, Iowa's a physical football team on defense. And you're gonna have to go from that to playing against another really physical football team the week after. That's, I mean, it's not the hardest schedule in college. Like it's not a Florida schedule, but I think they like 3 of the 4 games. I mean, you got the middle stretch of the year. You got that Iowa game, you got that Oregon game, and then you have the Penn State game. And 2 of those games are on the road, so that isn't going to be as easy. And then, I mean, you do have a couple of cupcakes in there, but then you got that Michigan game. That Indiana game could be one that's a little tougher than expected, especially late in the year. But I agree. The beginning of the schedule is, beginning is underwhelming. But I mean, most teams' schedule to begin the year is underwhelming.
And I just think that if they don't beat Iowa, to me, and I'm not saying that it's going to be an easy game, but that's a game they should win at home. If they don't win that game, then that kind of tells me a lot that I needed to know about this team, because I mean that's a game that they should win. Now,
Oh yeah,
I mean now the Oregon game, I'm not saying that the Oregon game, like they got to go to Oregon to play Oregon. That's going to be tough. Like I mean, like I'm not right now. It's what, July 20th. I don't know who I'm going to pick for that game right now. So I mean, like that to me is a toss-up game. But Penn State, like they should be able to beat Penn State, and I think Penn State a lot depends on like Drew Allard. Like if Drew Allard takes a step, then like that game becomes a lot harder. But it just depends, because last year Drew was not good, so I don't know how good I mean like the jump he's going to take. And so I mean for me and Penn, that's what holds me back on Penn State is Drew Allard. So I got to see how good like Drew starts the season, and I mean like if he plays well, I'll change my opinion.
Drew Allard, he has all the talent in the world, but I think that they've kind of been let down. Like Drew Aller and all the rest of those offensive guys, they've been let down by just bad coaching hires. I don't think any of the offensive coordinators really been good up until this point. Now they're bringing in another new offensive coordinator this year. So maybe Drew Allard does look better under this new OC. And if that happens, then I could see the team being really good this year. But there's also questions on the defensive side of the ball with Penn State, because they lost their defensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator is now the head coach at Duke. Right? And they had a really good defense last year. So how do you replace him? And what kind of production are you going to get on offense? I think they have a good pair of running backs. I think they have some good receivers, and I think Allard can be good. But it's a question of, will he be developed the right way so that he can show the talent that he has?
All right. So the next team on our list is the team Dre was just talking about, man. The Wisconsin Badgers. They're taking in quarterback from Miami, man, who to me struggled at a lot in Tyler Van Dyke. But he's coming in for his redshirt senior season to try to lead this offense to some success. They got another redshirt. I don't even know how to say this dude's last name, bro. Will Polling. Say that. So I think this team could be decent. I did look at the running back, Ches can't even say his name, bro. Malusi. He transferred from Clemson maybe a year ago or something like that, 2 years ago.
He's probably third string though.
They
You
got him
still
at the
got
starter.
Keytron Allen. Now you still got
And Walker.
Keytron Allen and Nick Singleton over there.
I
Those
mean, they
two
got
guys are those are certified too.
yeah, but they got Chez.
Running backs?
Yes,
Yeah, I was gonna
Keytron
say-
Allen and Nick Singleton are the top two running backs for Penn State.
Nah, we ain't. This Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's talking about Wisconsin.
I thought, because you said team, I was just talking about my fault.
You had brought up. Remember you said that the coach from Wisconsin
Yeah,
do good.
yeah.
He could
Nah,
be the
because I
head
just
coach.
got done. It's all good. It was just a misunderstanding. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah, Chez, and I don't even know who this is from. He transferred from Oklahoma. Tyree Walker. I think they could be decent though. I think this team right here, you know, if Tyler Van Dyke can play some good quarterback for them, can have a decent season. But I don't like Tyler Van Dyke enough to put any faith in him. To be honest, I watched him struggle all those years at Miami, so I don't know if he's gonna bring what they need. Hopefully, they got a good backup in Braden Locke. He can step in and play some good football. Which I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say Braden Locke, and I wonder if he's related to Drew Locke at all.
Braden Locke, he could start this year, but they also brought in from Miami Tyler Van Dyke. And Tyler Van Dyke.
No. I said Tyler Van Dyke. I said I don't got no faith in him.
Yeah, I mean, you really shouldn't, because I mean, if you watch how he's played the last 2 years, would you have any faith in him?
I mean, Tyler Van Dyke isn't an amazing quarterback.
He's bad.
Yeah, he's not. He's not really that good at all.
See, my problem is, right, like I question how much of it is him and how much of it is the development at Miami as far as quarterback goes. Because I remember him starting off that year at Miami, where the Miami fans, it was 2 years ago, they were so excited about Tyler Van Dyke. He was getting first round hype as far as coming out in, because I think he had 6 straight games throwing for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards or something like that. Like the kid, he looked special, and then it just fell apart. Now, if he can have a resurgence in this air raid that Wisconsin's gonna run, it could work. But I agree. Like, I don't have a lot of faith, but I don't want to just completely count him out, because I think about a guy like Bo Nix, who looked terrible at Auburn, and he goes to Oregon, and then you see what happens.
Yeah, but I could say the same thing about Wisconsin. Like, they had Graham Mertz. Everybody thought he was terrible. He go to Florida, and he's not as bad. So, I mean, you can say this. I mean, Wisconsin, like, I think they got new, offensive coaches. I believe
they got a new head coach too since then.
Yeah, so I mean, that might be a little different now, but like, yeah, I mean, like the Graham Mertz thing is still, I mean, like in the back of people's minds that he was not good at Wisconsin to go to Florida, and he was pretty good. So,
yeah, but that was a different staff. Because I mean, I could be mistaken, but I don't think Luke Fickell was the head coach when Graham Mertz was there.
No, I don't think he was. And I think it was the other guy, because like the offense was different. I mean, like they weren't running with I think they were running more like a power set, like I mean, like offense.
Yeah. I think last year was his first year as the head coach, if I'm not mistaken, right now. And the offense just didn't translate in year one. The air raid did not work last year for them. It'd be interesting to see if it works this year. But Luke Fickell is a good coach.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it didn't work last year because they didn't have the quarterback to operate it. I think that's what the issue was.
Well,
and I mean, I don't know.
Big issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if Tyler Van Dyke is the quarterback to operate it either. I mean, I mean, like he's going to a different school, going under new coaching, and so I mean, coaching can make a difference. So I mean, I'll give him a shot. Like I'm not going to just count him out. But I mean, he really got to prove it to me, man. Because what I seen him do in Miami was not. It just wasn't good.
Yeah. It was not. I mean, if Dre right and they just not developing, then that's an issue too. But they have had some bad quarterback play over the last few years. I would say that.
I don't think that they have a chance of having a really good season though, because I'll just read you 4 games on their schedule: Alabama, Penn State, Oregon, USC. Oh, and they play Iowa too.
I mean, the only savior because they play Bama and USC back to back, but they get a bye week in between. So that ain't terrible that they get a bye week in terms of once they finish playing Bama. Like, so they got to go to USC, which that's going to be a tough game for them. I mean, their schedule's not easy though. They got to go. They get Penn State at home and they get Oregon at home, which is good. They get those games at home, but they got to go to Iowa, which is not an easy place to play. So
They also brought in a new co-defensive coordinator, and I mentioned him earlier and said he was the worst defensive coordinator in college football. And I think I don't think he'll be calling the plays, but even him working with the DBs, I don't know, man. They brought in Alex Grinch, and Alex Grinch is not good.
Yeah, he's not good.
Because we took their safety coach, Coach Hitchler. He came over to Alabama to be the safety coach, co-defensive coordinator, same position he had at Wisconsin. They had to replace him, and they went out and got Alex Grinch. So I don't know, man. I don't have any faith in Alex Grinch coaching anybody up, but maybe he can change my mind.
I mean, Alex Grinch got a track record at Oklahoma and USC, man. Maybe he could change it around. I just don't believe in him.
I mean, they did bring in some guys in the portal. Like maybe that can help them a little bit on defense. And if I'm not mistaken, they still have one of the top safeties from last year as far as tackles go on that team. I don't think he went anywhere. I think he ended up staying at Nebraska. So at Wisconsin. So they have some pieces over there. It's just I don't think they have enough. But it's a tough environment to play in. So anytime you play in their stadium, I think you do have to kind of watch out a little bit because it's not an easy place to play. Now, if their talent isn't up to par, then the environment might not matter as much. But if they can put something together and that environment starts to get rocking during them home games, they could definitely upset a team.
For sure, but I mean, I just don't see them winning more than like maybe 5 games this season. I just don't have faith in the team. I think they got some quality players like at certain positions, but overall as a team, I just don't see it for them.
All right. So the last team on the list for today is Penn State. Uh, Coming in with Drew Allar. Shout out to in the chat, Alex. I think this is your team here, good brother. And you said Nick Singleton and Creighton Allen. Both of those are the
Allen,
two starters. Yeah. And then who this transfer is? They got the transfer from Ohio State, Julian Fleming.
Yeah, he's a receiver.
He's a receiver. Yeah. They got him. Looking at Penn State from last year, I mean, they're poised to be a good team this year. If Drew Allen can take a significant step in being a better quarterback this year, but I think with what they have, they should be in the top of the Big 10 at the end of this season, in my opinion. I like what they do as a football team. They usually play pretty well. They also brought in a red shirt junior right tackle from I think he came from Wisconsin, Nolan Rucci. So, what y'all think about Penn State and their chances this year in the Big 10?
At least they ain't got to play Michigan this year.
Yeah, yeah. I like Penn State. The big question mark that we've been talking about all pod is the quarterback. Like, what are we gonna get from them? right now, I think Penn State could be like a dark horse team, and they're not an easy out. They always play, especially that defense, always plays physical, plays hard. They give teams issues. That's not a team that you can just go into the game thinking, oh, I'm just gonna run all over them. That's not gonna happen. But their chances at least making the Big 10 championship, I don't think it's great right now. Potentially they could, especially if they get a couple of upset wins, but I just don't see it for them. Like, especially with their, like I said, the quarterback. Like, what are we gonna get? Because if we get a better showing than we've got before, then yeah, I could stand confident that Penn State can compete for the Big Ten championship. But right now, I just don't have faith in it.
I mean, to me, when I look at Penn State, like defensively, I think they're going to be just like they have been over the last couple of years. I mean, like under Franklin, like the defenses are normally really good. Don't really have a lot of questions. I mean, like they did lose a couple players in the NFL, but I think they should be. I'm not gonna say they're going to replace those guys, but I mean, like they they have guys that have been there that are going to come up and take over for those guys. So defensively, I think they should be fine. And just looking at their schedule, they should go 5-0 in the first 5 games. Like I don't. None of them 5 games. I mean, West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA. I think they should be 5-0. I think where their season hinges on is the USC game. I think they have to go up to USC and they have to win that game. Because if they don't win that game, then like they have a bye after that USC game, and then they have to go to Wisconsin. And so playing in Wisconsin is a kind of a tough game. So it's not necessarily an easy place to play. So you got that game, and then right after the Wisconsin game, you have Ohio State. And the good thing is, at least that game is at Penn State, so it's a home game. So, I mean, to me, those are the 2 toughest games. Like I should say that 3-game stretch is probably the toughest stretch. It's you at USC, at Wisconsin, and then they get Ohio State at home. So to me, like I said, in my opinion, their season hinges on the USC game. If they can come out to USC and win that game, I think it bodes well for their chances to maybe be a dark horse to win the conference.
Yes, Penn State, as far as the defense goes, they bring in Tom Allen as the new defensive coordinator, who has a track record of being a good defensive coordinator. I just want to see him do it again this year, but he has the talent on the defense to do it. They have probably one of the deepest secondaries in the nation. They brought in 2 transfers, one from Florida, one from Georgia. That helps them. I don't know if they'll be starters, but I think at worst they'll be good depth pieces. They're 4 deep at defensive tackle. Like, they have talent on that defense. And Tom Allen, before going to Penn State, he was at Indiana. And his first year at Indiana, he led the biggest turnaround in the nation on the defensive side of the ball. So I like the potential that defense has. It just all has to come together for them, and I have to see it on the field first. But on the offense, you bring in the offensive coordinator from Kansas last year, and that to me is interesting, right? Bringing him in, to me, he's a real creative guy, right? I think he's gonna throw some looks at you that you aren't expecting, and he used a lot of motion and stuff like that. I could see Drew Allard having a better season under the new OC. And if that happens, I mean, I don't know if they win the conference, but I think they definitely are a playoff team at that point. Right? Like, they brought back one of the better tight ends in the country. They brought back Singleton and Keytron Allen. They bring in Julian Fleming, who Smitty mentioned earlier, from Ohio State. So they have the talent on both sides of the ball to be really good. It's just, are they going to be able to get over to the hump? And this year, to Jameik's point, I think it's Ohio State is the one they don't play, right?
Nah, they play Ohio State, but they don't play.
They don't play Michigan. Okay. Their problem was they always had to play up. They had to play both teams.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And if you really look at it, if we had this 12-team playoff the last couple of years, they would have consistently been a playoff team. I think they just get overlooked as how good of a team they actually are because they struggled to beat the big two of that conference. And that's really been their biggest issue. But I mean, Drew Allard, for everything everybody says about him, he didn't have a terrible season last year. Like, yes,
he had like 2,700, 25 touchdowns, 20 something touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, like he had 25-2 ratio as far as touchdown to interceptions goes, which means he played pretty safe in my opinion last year. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. I think he'll take a couple more chances under their new offensive coordinator, so you might see a couple more interceptions than you saw last year, but you should also see the touchdowns go up.
Yeah, but I think the issue with him is like if you like, yeah, like I mean his his stats look good, but if you watch that Ohio State game, you watch that Michigan game, he wasn't good in those games. Just wasn't.
He
So
played
has to get
scared.
better. He has to get better. That's what I think. I think he played safe, like scared safe, however you want to say. I don't think he
safe,
took a
scared.
lot
It's
of
all the same.
chances.
And
But
yeah, so I'll say that. But like the Ohio State game, like I literally watched that game and he played. That was some of the worst quarterbacking that I seen last year. Like I'm just saying, it was bad. Like he wasn't he wasn't hitting the wide receivers. The throws were erring. Like it just wasn't good. And so I mean, I get it. Like he was a sophomore last year. I think he's a sophomore because I think he's going to his junior year. So I mean, I just need him to be more consistent. If he can be more consistent against the good teams, then I think Penn State got a good chance to win the conference. And I mean, like you said, Dre, like if we had a 12-team playoff the last 2 years, they would have been in the playoffs. So I mean, I would expect for Penn State to be in the playoff this year.
yeah, and look, my thing with Drew Allard is the offense should be a little bit easier for him. Like there should be big explosive plays to be made, and he should be able to see that at times pre-snap because of the way that they shift and they motion and things like that. Like it should expose the defense pre-snap. And I also think another thing that's going to help a lot of quarterbacks this year is they're going to have the headsets like in the NFL. So the offense coordinator can actually talk to the quarterback on the field. And I think that could make a huge difference for a lot of different quarterbacks this season, not just Drew Allard.
Okay, that's big. That is big. We haven't talked about that a lot, but I think that is a big change this year with them bringing that in. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna give them the ability to communicate a little better and get a quarterback a little bit better. Maybe you can. I don't know how long. What's the cutoff time? Do you know, Dre? Or is it
I
gonna
have
be
to go
full?
look at the cutoff time again, but I think it's similar to the NFL. With the
Yeah, it
cutoff.
is. It is. It's a similar practice with the cutoff for the mics. Also, I don't know if
Isn't
y'all
it
brought
like
this up, but they're giving tablets as well.
Yep.
So,
and I mean we
so
cut off like what's it like 12 or 14
It's
seconds?
15. I think it's
yeah,
15.
Okay.
yeah. So they're also going to have sideline tablets for players this year as well. So I think it'll really, specifically the headset, I think that's going to really help a lot of quarterbacks
Yeah.
moving forward in college football. And um, yeah, I agree with the point y'all making, Dre and J Mick, with Drew. Like, I agree. For me, I just want him to show improve. That's what I'm asking of him, is to show improve, because if he could be what we think he can, I think not only will they make a playoff, they, like I said, I think they can contend for the conference championship as well. So we'll just have to see.
One
So
concern I will
that's
say
the
though is
biggest
the
question,
offense
right?
line.
Is just him, right?
That and the offense line. I mean, they lost 3 starters on the offense line from last season, so they have to replace those guys. And I mean, we'll see how it works out. But those would probably be the 2 biggest questions here. Drew Allard, how is he going to play with the new offensive coordinator, and how do they replace Olu and the other guys they lost on that offense line?
Yeah, I mean, because they lost both tackles, so I mean, like they're starting fresh at that position at least. So kind of got to see how that goes.
Well, I guess it's gonna be an interesting road, man, for the Big Ten this year, man. So,
It's definitely going to be different for sure.
Alex did ask a question. He wanted us to rate Drew Allar. I wasn't sure what he wanted us to rate him at though. As far as Big Ten,
yeah, like are we rating him off of what he's done or just like what he could be? Because I think Drew Allar could be a first-round quarterback. Will he be that? I don't know, but I think he could definitely be a first-round quarterback.
I mean, you could make the. I mean, I've heard some people say, but you can make the argument that in that conference, like he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the conference. It's just he got to put it together. Like I think that's what the issue is.
Yeah, he's a highly rated guy coming out too. Like people were really high on the kid. He just hasn't really translated yet. But you could also look at the offensive coordinator position, and I mean that's one of the reasons I would say. That's what I'm saying. Like we'll see this year if they can improve, man. If they can improve that offense, though, that could be a really dangerous team this year.
yeah, true. I mean, so where y'all got him at? He said y'all know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just rank them in the conference. I say I could have them like one. I'm not one, like maybe 2 or 3 in the conference.
Yeah, I got him at 3.
I got him between. I would give him the slight edge over Michigan, so I'll put him at 3. But I think you could argue. Well, I think it could change throughout the season. I think Michigan, depending on how that offense looks coming out, they could definitely push for that 3rd spot.
Okay. Well, we got. So you saying what Drew Allar at, or you saying what Drew Allar is at 3? Said 2, 3.
Oh, that was Drew. I thought you were talking about the team.
Oh yeah. I was talking about the team. I wasn't talking about Drew Allar.
Now he said Drew Allar. He want to rate on Drew.
I mean, if you're ranking them in terms of the quarterbacks in the conference,
because I was going to be like, I don't even really
see, man, that's tough.
He got a lot of upside.
I mean, he's definitely one of the better quarterbacks in that conference. Like, it's, I don't know.
I mean, that's just. I mean, I'll probably put him in the top 5 to top 6 quarterbacks in the conference. I just don't know where to put him. That's my problem.
Oh, he said all of college. Top 59.
All of college.
Man, that's a crazy question. Do you know how many quarterbacks it is in college?
Yeah, bro. Like, are we just doing the Power 4, or are we adding the Group of 5? Are we doing the mid? Like,
even if you're doing Power 4,
like, bro.
I mean, I could put it into a draft because he's probably going into the draft, right? And I know other quarterbacks that are going to the draft. I mean, I probably say he might be like the 6th to 7th best quarterback in the draft right now. But
I gotta pull up the list. I'll pull up the list real quick.
But right now, I'm talking about right now. Like once they start playing, then that could change. I mean, I'd say top 6. Like he'll be a top 6 quarterback drafted.
That's 23. Let me go to 20.
I mean, he's definitely not
24.
He's definitely not the top 3. I could tell you
Coach
that.
B said he's 2nd best quarterback in the conference.
I could see that. All right, so quarterbacks, all right, just draftable guys this upcoming year. You got Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Drew Allar, Nussmeier, Wigman, Gabriel, Cam Ward, Riley Leonard, Jackson Dart, and Noah Fafita.
Yeah, I'd probably put him at maybe. I have to revise it.
3rd or 4th?
Yeah, I put him at 4 or 5.
Yeah, I got him somewhere between them.
Yeah,
I probably got Cam Ward in front of him. I like Noah too, but I don't know where I got Noah at.
If we're talking draft eligible quarterbacks, I got him maybe at the 6 quarterback spot right now,
Uh, I mean,
like 6 or 7.
I got them. Let me see. I got those four for sure. It's just from right now. I would probably put him in. He'd be in the top 10, but you probably be closer to 8 to 10 for me.
I mean, my thing about Drew Allard in the draft, when we get to the draft process, what's going to happen is, he's going to have his workouts in the combine, and his physical talents is going to show out, and it's going to push him up the board. I think that's what's going to happen.
He has the prototypical size too. Like you're
Yes,
talking about a guy that's
all that,
6'5", 240.
And I mean, like, there's just some scouts and teams that just love the prototypical measurables of a quarterback, and I mean, he gives you that.
Since we are talking about quarterbacks, though, just one guy, because I don't think I brought this guy up when we talked about the SEC. Connor Wigman, if he can stay healthy this year, is going to be another name that I think a lot of people talk about throughout the season and potentially come draft time if he decides to declare. Connor Wigman has a lot of talent, and he just couldn't stay healthy at A&M. He can put it all together this year and stay healthy. Yeah, that kid he's nice. I like that kid a lot. So be on the lookout for Connor Wigman.
Well, man, we had a hour and 47 minutes, man. That's the conclusion of, our Big 10 review. Next week we'll be back to a little bit of a mixture, man. We'll be getting back into doing something with the top 12, and then we'll be doing a little NFL training camp. So we appreciate y'all for coming out, man. Anything y'all got for the people before we get up out of here?
No, just keep tapping in with us. Next week, I think we're doing our college football playoff picture, where we think what teams are going to be projected for the college football playoff, and tell a friend, tell a friend.
Yeah. I just want to say right now to all my Florida State people, I'm gonna need y'all to pull up because I see this nigga Dre top 12. Okay, so we're gonna wait for this nigga to come get his mail, and then we're gonna jump him. Okay, but come back next week and find out why. Find out why we gonna have to jump this nigga, man.
Well, I mean, that's just my top 12. We got to come to a consensus. So, Florida State could be in the top 12. I just, I'm not
Hey,
high on
bro,
Florida State,
I,
man.
I left I left something in your mailbox, dog.
I'd have had it. I mean, I'd have had the conversation so many times the last couple of days about me not being high on Florida State. It just, to me, and it's not. It's not that I don't think y'all can. I think it's hard to consistently uphold a winning culture when you have a lot of roster turnover year in, year out. That's my biggest problem. Like, it's not like Florida State didn't lose, or like they lost maybe like 1-2 guys. You lost quarterback, running back, tight end, top 2 receivers. Like defense, you lost what? 2 DBs, an edge, a D tackle. Like y'all lost a lot on that team.
We
And
did.
that's my only thing is like with the turnover, I think it's hard to uphold consistently a winning culture. It's not saying you can't do it, but it's a real big question for me this year. And if I look at your schedule, you have a lot of teams that are bringing back a lot of returning production from last year. I think the 4th worst team on your schedule as far as returning production goes is still in the top 50, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go look at it again. But I think they're in the top 50. But that's just my thing when it comes to Florida State this year. I don't know how good y'all are going to be, man. I got to see it. I'm not a believer in DJU either. It is what it is, man.
I mean,
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Good old DJ. And remember that boy at Clemson.
Yeah, he was supposed to be one of them ones. His little brother playing what is he, a D end? He's a D end over there at Oregon now. He was one of the top players at his position.
Yeah.
if not the top player. I have to go look at that, but I think he was definitely like highly recruited.
J Mick, J Mick, you already said what you had to say, didn't you?
No, I ain't really say nothing. To the people, thanks for tuning in for all these conference shows that we did. You know what I mean? Like, and we did what about 5 or 6 of these joints, and we got through them, and you know, like, and we appreciate y'all for tuning in for that. So,
Man, like Pop said, next week, man, we got that college football playoff prediction. You know, we're gonna have to figure out what our consensus 12 teams are, and then tune in next week to see what we come up with, man. And we'll be covering a little bit of training camp too. You know, training camp has started for most teams, I'm assuming, and as far as rookies go, at least. And yeah, I mean, we're not that far away from football season no more, man. Fall camp starts here soon for the college kids. Training camp starting up. It's a great time of the year. Football is on the horizon.
Yeah, man. We appreciate y'all, man. Next Saturday, same time, same place. Tune in. We got 147 people. So before we get out of here, man, if y'all could, man, if you're on the Twitter side and you haven't come to the YouTube side, come to the YouTube side, subscribe, like, comment. We appreciate all the interaction with the people that come out, man. So we'll catch y'all next Saturday, man. Until next time, y'all know what it is. Peace.